Everyone, I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Brandon. And we're the
Wagners. We're a husband-wife duo who travel all around the country since 2021 for Brandon's travel nursing job.
We love hiking, car camping, new cities, and of course, the best food and drink. Along with adventure, we always look for ways to keep our travel budget-friendly.
So pack your bags and join us as we wander together. Wanders, and welcome to another international episode of Wandering with the Wagners. We love Mexico, so we're back again, but this time we're headed to the east coast of Mexico, Cancun. So this trip was a little different for us. You've probably noticed normally when we travel, we're less about fancy hotels and resorts, but prefer to spend less money for lodging and spend more of our budgeted money on food and experiences. But this was actually our annual vacation with some of our oldest friends, so we just kept it simple for the group and we rolled a resort style for this one. We really loved our resort. Obviously there's so many, but if you're planning a trip and you want a resort, check out the Occidental to Cancun resort. So I will say getting a resort makes things significantly easier in the planning department. In addition to getting all of our food and drinks for free, while we were booking, we were given the option to add excursions, and each one had their own separate fee. So our group was here for a long weekend and we did 2 days of excursions and 1 day of just hanging out and drinking in the pool. We decided to do 1 day trip to Chichen Itza and one to the Mayan Jungle Adventure Park. So sadly we weren't able to have our phones for the adventure park, so I may show a few photos at the end, but this video will mostly cover Chichen Itza and the Cenotes. So cenotes are underground rivers in caverns or caves. There are over 30,000 cenotes in Cancun. So let's get started. After we arrived at Chichen Itza, we made a stop to a cenote Hubiku in Temazan. Honestly, this may have been one of my favorite activities of the entire trip. So when we first got here, we were greeted by one of the vendors who, along with our tour guide, taught us some of the basic phrases from the Mayan language. They had a little souvenir shop with handmade pottery, jewelry, and other items. Outside the souvenir shop, there was a man giving out free samples of tequila, or as he liked to call it, Mexican water, and they had all different flavors of tequila to sample. So as you passed him, you came towards the bathroom and changing rooms to get in your swimmies so you could go into the cenote. So one thing I should note is in order to not add harmful chemicals to the life that lives in the cenotes, you can't wear sunscreen. Vegan sunscreen might be okay, but double check me on that. So if you already put some on, they have a little outside shower for you to rinse off before heading in. So the cenote was the coolest thing. You walked down on these stairs going like into the earth, and then as you made your way into the cenote, you could see a huge hole in the ground like opening up to the cenote. The water is pretty cold, so I didn't get in too far, but honestly, I just thought it was the coolest thing to look up and see that opening and then into that huge pool of water I was sitting in. So we were a little confused because we thought the cenotes were more like rivers, but what we were in was more like a lake. But luckily when we got out of it, we saw there was a diagram of the cenote, and we saw that even deeper, they had like the river part that continued on. So honestly, it's kind of eerie to think about all the things that could be living down there, but of course that doesn't detract from the fact of just how cool this is. So after we got out, we changed again and we were able to get our lunch at the restaurant, which was also included in our excursion today. And then after lunch, we got back on the bus and headed to Chichen Itza. So our tour guides were great and they gave us some history on the ancient Mayans, both on the bus and at Chichen Itza before we broke up to do our own exploring. So I forgot to mention that the tours were given in both Spanish and English, so don't worry if you need a little extra practice with your Spanish still. So Chichen Itza is one of the new 7 wonders of the world. In its heyday, Chichen Itza was home to tens of thousands of Mayan people. It's hard to say exactly how old Chichen Itza is, but most archaeologists approximate it is over 1,500 years old. Sadly, it was conquered by the Spanish in the mid-16th century. So my favorite part was getting to hear the history of the Mayan people. So if you remember back to your history or maybe a geography class, you might remember that the Mayans are particularly famous for their mathematical genius, which of course led to the Mayan calendar. So the main temple at Chichen Itza is Kukulcán, which has 91 steps on each staircase on all 4 sides, and then a single step to the top of the temple. So if you add that up, it equals 365. So essentially, this temple is a giant calendar. So in addition to Kukulcán, one of the main features is the ball field. This is where they would play pok-a-tok, in which the players needed to get a really heavy ball into the rings on the side, but you could only use your elbows, your knees, and your hips. So personally, I don't even see how this would be possible, but I guess it worked because they had winners and losers. So you might have heard that the losers would be decapitated, but our tour guide actually told us that the winners would be the ones who got sacrificed to the gods, and it was like considered an honor to be enough for a sacrifice. So I'll be honest and say when I was researching for this video, I couldn't find anything to support the sacrificing of the winners, but almost all the sources said the losers were sacrificed, and one side even said that no one was actually killed at all, which I doubt is true. But anyway, if anyone can provide a little more clarity on this, leave us a comment below. I'm just a gal on vacation, so I am no expert. But I guess, all truth be told, we don't really know what happened back then. But anyway, but it did look like human sacrifices were a pretty big part of their culture in one way or another. Either way, it was really nice to have the tour guides as the experts, and they gave us a lot of great information that I otherwise would have never known. So after our formal tour, we got to walk around and get pictures and get souvenirs from the vendors. So if you're in Cancun, a stop to Chichen Itza is a must. Lastly, we made a quick stop into Valladolid. We pretty much just walked around the town center. We weren't here for too long, but you guys know that I took a chance to get a churro. So like I mentioned, our last day was at the adventure park in the Mayan jungle. But we don't really have too many videos of that because we were ziplining and rappelling into cenotes and swimming in cenotes and ziplining into cenotes. But if you're planning your own Cancun trip, check out all the different options at All Tour Native. I'll link them below, but this was a really great company. We had a great time, and they even made us some homemade delicious Mexican food. So one thing that we loved about Cancun that was so obvious was, in addition to being hospitable, everyone we talked to was just so proud of their heritage and ready to share their culture and their history with you. So that was so special, because that's definitely the best part of traveling, is just meeting new people and seeing new things and just getting some other perspectives. So have you guys been to Cancun before? What are your favorite parts? Let us know in the comments. Thanks again for traveling with us, and please remember to like and subscribe so we can travel together soon. Bye!